Good morning, everyone, and happy Saturday. How's everyone doing this morning?
Hey,
Good morning. How
Hey,
are you
good.
Good
guys?
morning.
Great. Good morning.
All right. Well, that is a boisterous good morning for 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And for those that are joining us for the first time, this is the Voices of Health Point, which is pretty much every Saturday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I know we have people in other time zones. And for those that still choose to join live in those other time zones, thank you so much. I know it's really early for you. For those that aren't able to or choose not to join live, these episodes do get uploaded onto the Voices of Health Point YouTube channel. And what it is Voices of Health Point is basically those of us that are kind of in the world of Health Point, either as coaches, business owners, clients, just like-minded people talking about the Health Point program. And we get together once a week to talk all things Health Point and just kind of all things health. So we usually have some docket items that some members in the community here will kind of be teed up to go through, and that's a lot of fun. And then we break into kind of a round robin, just discussion. And before we know it, the hour is up. It's really, really fun. So with that, we've got, as always, some fun and exciting docket items. I'm going to do a docket item on an element within the 6-week cycle Health Point program that I found myself talking a lot about this week, just working with new people, and that is this topic of glycogen. And we're going to talk about your kitchen freezer and your basement freezer, or maybe it's in your garage. But we're going to be talking about the freezer metaphor. And then we've got Carol that is going to go through the many kind of unknown benefits of chia seeds. Chia seeds can be a big part of, a lot of clients, a lot of people will use them throughout the program, and really looking forward to Carol talking about some of the additional benefits of chia seeds. And then we've got Laurel that is going to be talking about the perfect hug. And I can't wait for that. That's a bit intriguing, the perfect hug, and I'm sure it's going to be fun and a lot of value. So time is short. We're going to hop right into things and get going. I'm going to kind of kick things off talking about glycogen. So the title is From Kitchen to Basement, How Glycogen Depletion Empties the Small Freezer and Unlocks Your Body's Fat Stores. One of the key design features of the Health Point 6-week cycle program is the way it guides the body to switch from burning sugar to burning fat. This isn't just a matter of willpower or meal planning. It's deeply rooted in human physiology. Understanding the role of glycogen in this process helps both clients and coaches appreciate the science behind the program's early structure. Think of your body like a house with 2 freezers. One is the small freezer attached to your refrigerator in the kitchen, the one that you open several times a day without even thinking. It's easy to access and convenient, but it doesn't hold much. This small freezer represents your body's glycogen stores, which are found in the liver and also in muscle. You store about 100 to 120 grams of glycogen in the liver and about 300 to 400 grams in your muscles, depending upon the individual, of course. Now think about the large deep freezer in your basement or garage. It stores a lot more, but you have to make a trip downstairs to get it. Or some people keep the freezer in their garage, but we'll work with it being downstairs for the point of this piece here. So this downstairs freezer represents your subcutaneous fat and other long-term energy reserves. When you open the small freezer and find the frozen berries or the ice pack that you need, there's no reason to go to the basement, right? But if the small freezer is empty, you have no choice but to take that extra trip down to the big freezer. And as long as the kitchen freezer stays low or empty, you'll keep going down to the basement to get what you need. That is exactly what the 6-week cycle program is designed to do. During the first 3 protein-only days, we intentionally, quote, empty the kitchen freezer. Then from days 4 through 28, your body continues operating in a way that keeps the small freezer relatively low, requiring it to visit the basement freezer daily. tapping into your fat stores for fuel. It's a brilliant design rooted in both everyday logic and solid metabolic science. So let's break it down. Day one, with no new carbs. So that would be a Monday, right? So I've got some people starting on this coming Monday with no new carbs coming in and moderate movement, like, of course, walking 10,000 steps a day. Your liver starts breaking down glycogen to maintain blood sugar. Muscle glycogen is tapped for that physical activity. Day two, liver glycogen is mostly gone. Muscle glycogen is partially depleted. The body begins to increase fat breakdown, which is called lipolysis. Day three, most glycogen stores are virtually empty. The body ramps up fat burning, drawing from the stored fat, especially subcutaneous fat around the thighs, the hips, and the abdomen. So when glycogen runs low, your body flips a powerful metabolic switch. It begins converting triglycerides, which are fat molecules essentially, into free fatty acids and glycerol. Glycerol can be used by the liver to make a small, steady supply of glucose for cells that depend on it. Meanwhile, the fatty acids are used for energy, and the liver also starts making ketones, an alternative fuel source for the brain and muscles. This metabolic transition is natural. Humans evolved to burn glucose when it was available and fat during times of fasting, famine, or seasonal food scarcity. We call this ability metabolic flexibility. But most people today have never experienced a carb deficit, let alone flip the metabolic switch. For them, the transition can feel uncomfortable. They might get mild headaches, they might feel a little jittery or foggy, or they might kind of have like a low energy or mild flu-like symptoms. In fact, sometimes we call it that flu. But these are temporary and they pass in a few days. Coaches can reassure clients the body is simply learning to access the big freezer. Okay, so the body's just a little grumpy about that. It hasn't had to do that in a while, maybe ever. So to protect lean muscle mass during this transition, the program emphasizes high quality protein intake at every main meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, along with small protein snacks every 90 minutes approximately. This helps stabilize blood sugar and prevent cravings. Cravings are caused by hyperglycemia, which is a blood sugar crash after a spike from highly processed carbs. So think about that. Most people, when they eat, they're eating a lot of refined carbs. Their blood sugar goes up like a roller coaster. Your pancreas secretes insulin, and then that blood sugar comes crashing down. And it's when it's crashing down that those cravings really increase. So eating protein frequently not only fuels the body, but supports satiety and prevents muscle breakdown. It also spares the body from converting its own muscle tissue into glucose, something that's called gluconeogenesis. So on day 4, clients shift to 50 to 100 net carbs per day, introducing whole food carbohydrates like vegetables and small servings of fruit. A typical day might look like, for breakfast, you might have a serving of protein and a small piece of fruit. For lunch, you might have a couple of cups of lettuce, a cup of vegetables, 4 ounces of protein, and a small piece of fruit. Dinner might be similar, maybe a hot variety of that. And then you've got these protein snacks every 90 minutes, which maintain the blood sugar stability and virtually eliminates cravings, physical cravings. You might still have some psychological cravings, but that physical craving is really negated. So at this point, glycogen stores are low, but the body is thriving in a fat adapted state, drawing from subcutaneous fat while maintaining steady blood sugar and eliminating the roller coaster of cravings. So the first 3 days of the 6-week cycle aren't just a crash diet. They're a strategic, science-based reset. By depleting glycogen, which is the easy to access freezer in our metaphor, your body is forced to start pulling energy from stored fat, which is the basement freezer. Combined with frequent protein intake and moderate movement, this shift allows for real fat burning, better energy, and lasting metabolic change. Okay, guys, that is my piece on glycogen, kind of a fun, nerdy topic, and it just gets into a bit of an unpack that I don't know about you guys. Sometimes with myself, when I'm, explaining this phase of the program to people, there's, different personalities, right? We know this from reading books like Personality Plus. Some are like really into the details and they want to know the mechanisms of action for them. If they understand the why, then it helps them follow a program. Of course, other people are like, you can see them, they just kind of, their eyes get glazy, if you start explaining this, and they don't really care about these details. They're just like, yeah, how many days do I do this? Okay, that's all I really want to know. I don't really care how it works. I just protein only Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, got it, check, and moving on. So we've got different personalities, but I found particularly this past week, time after time after time, people were like, wow, this is really interesting. That really helps me understand why this kind of an odd sounding start to a program is so important. And it really cemented their conviction with starting off strong. So I just wanted to walk through that again, open it up to questions, comments, thoughts, and we'll continue to move along here. Anybody have any thoughts or commentary?
I have a question, Eric. You said in the beginning, that was very good, by the way. That's probably the best explanation I've ever heard of that. Oh, I like that. Um, but you said the most of the glycogen initially when we start is stored in the liver. Is that right? Liver or liver and muscle? Is that where it's
It's liver and muscle, and
okay?
yeah, for most people, you'll actually have more in the muscle than the liver. We always talk about the liver, but the reality is just the mass of muscle. Particularly, certain people are going to have a lot of muscle, and so they will have more grams of it in the muscle than in the liver.
Okay. All right. That was what I wanted to clear up. All right. Thanks. That was great.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I have a question. So if it's stored in the muscle, is there a take on muscle multiplier? Does that enter the picture pro or con in any way?
That is a great question. And candidly, I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. Let me take a stab at what I think would be the correct answer. And that is that I think so. Let's look at what muscle multiplier, if in effect is doing, or when people are taking muscle multiplier, what are they doing? They are getting a very thorough and balanced BCAA, branch chain amino acids, which is helping build lean muscle mass. So kind of going back on the question that Laurel asked, I would say yes, it's beneficial because like one of the ways I could expand on the answer with Laurel is if you've got somebody that has very little lean muscle mass, they're just not very strong, they don't have much muscle, um, they might not have like 300 to 400 grams in their muscle because they just don't have much muscle, right? But if you've got someone that is, I don't know, picture like a bodybuilder where they've got, the Arnold Schwarzenegger type of muscle, they're going to have many, many more grams of glycogen in their muscle fiber simply because they have more lean muscle mass. So, to your question, Carol, if you're using muscle multiplier and increasing your lean muscle mass, then you would have potential for more glycogen stores in that. But here's the flip side of that, and kind of maybe going too deep on this, but think of these are your body's like quick hits for fuel. Okay, let me tie in another element. In the morning, we know, we've talked about it, the role of cortisol. Okay, cortisol is one of the adrenal um, hormones, and our body naturally, when it's getting ready to wake, it will cortisol will be released to signal to the liver to do what? To release some glycogen, which is to say, release some fuel. Why? Because we're about ready to get up out of a horizontal state and get up and walk. We need fuel. We need, the body knows this. It's you're going to be waking up. Let's release some cortisol to get some fuel, because you're going to get out of bed and you're going to start walking around. And so muscles, the liver stores this for various body processes, but your muscles store that. And this is that quick source of fuel. Think of it like, in a car race, these, NASCAR car races where they go in for a pit stop and they get this quick hit of fuel to get back out. That's what is happening with stores of glycogen. So kind of a elongated answer to your question, but I would say, Carol, if someone is, or particularly if they have been using muscle multiplier and therefore their lean muscle mass is more robust, they would both have more glycogen potential because they have more lean muscle fiber, but also because of that muscle, they have more ability to burn off that glycogen as well. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good answer, Eric. Thank you. And I'm wondering if then it helps lighten the load for the liver. I'm a very novice person here, trying to get my arms around the benefits here, but it would seem to me like the liver, because it wouldn't be it would be a fat store, but there would be a better fat store in the muscle because you've built your muscle, so your liver would clean out more quicker. Am I?
Yes.
Does that
Yes.
make sense?
I understand the direction of your thinking. And I think absolutely that is the right direction to be thinking about this. I mean, clearly, if somebody is developing or maintaining more lean muscle, we know that's just good on a lot of different levels. But in this context of glycogen, if you have more strength, more skeletal muscle mass, then and less deposits in your liver, okay, then that's great. Okay, that is great on a number of levels, but definitely on the glycogen. And it's easy to understand that too if we go to the other extreme of that equation. What about somebody that has maybe for decades been eating a lot of processed food, a lot of sugar, has been lethargic, has not been doing walking or so forth, that's building their muscle mass. And so that they're going to have the opposite. They're going to have a reduced amount of, SMM, skeletal muscle mass, and they're going to have a large amount of fat and certainly glycogen in their liver for years. What often is the development of that over time is NAFLD, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's a very serious condition. I mean, it's a condition that is increasingly diagnosed in children, which, the results of this is very much like sclerosis of the liver, which normally you associate with high alcohol consumption, right? If somebody has had high alcohol consumption, and they often will start having problems with their liver, and that's through sclerosis of the liver. And when you have children that are getting sclerosis of the liver, it's not from drinking alcohol, they're a child, it is from the sugar. But the effect is effectively the same in having a fatty liver over time, low skeletal muscle mass, they're not burning that up, and they can have many of the same problems as an alcoholic in terms of liver disease and so forth. So yes, the good news is definitely, as we unpacked in this docket item this morning, if somebody follows the health point 6-week cycle, and we know that, we know this from, I'm just thinking of certain individuals in here that have openly expressed their joy at arresting their fatty liver disease. Their doctor, diagnosed it and said, wow, you've put a halt to this. And that is tremendously beneficial for their health. Your liver is not, all your organs are important, but
I have a follow-on question.
Yes, go ahead.
Morning, Eric. Very nice talk. Piling on the muscle multiplier and relationship to the liver and when it pulls what. I remember that we're supposed to have at least 20 minutes between our protein drink and the muscle multiplier. Don't mix them together at the same time. But when you're going for a walk, do you take the protein first, walk an hour, then come home and take the muscle multiplier? Or should you take the muscle multiplier, go walk, and then take the protein shake when you come back?
You guys are having some great questions this morning. Thanks, Jeff. I don't know if Steve Beber or Pam Beber is on the call here. If they are, I will deflect to Steve, who is an absolute brilliant on the topic of the muscle multiplier. But Jeff, this would be my again, I believe the correct answer, which would be to take the muscle multiplier and not the protein. So and in fact, I do that, sometimes I'll get up and I'll just hydrate with, the water, and I'll have the muscle multiplier in there and kind of get that hit of that, and then do whatever physical exercise. And then later take on the protein shake. So I believe that to be the correct. Steve would probably do a better job of giving the science behind that, but I believe that is the correct answer. But I might have to come back around and say, Jeff, I'm sorry, I gave you the wrong answer.
That's kind of the protocol I follow too, Eric, is first thing in the morning when I get up. And now I happen to do mine with Balance Within also, that I did ask Steve right at the get-go, and he said that was fine to mix those two together. And so I do that when I wake up in the morning. Then for me, I don't bound out of the house immediately after I have a cup of tea first. So by that time, that's worked into your system. 20 minutes is definitely gone. And I do it with a cool down tea too. I don't do it with a hot tea. And then go out, and, then you're free to do your protein and what have you. I think it's like and this is a very elementary answer, but to do the system that is within the system, but which one you will follow. In other words, what is your morning routine that you pretty much have to or is working for you? And do that. It's just like the form of exercise, the walking, how much walking, when, what have you. Walk when you can. We all want to get the 5,000 steps in first thing in the morning. Some people, it's very difficult weather-wise, schedule-wise. They get up ridiculously early to go to their job. There's lots of elements that happen. I'm thinking of our step queen, Kathy Munoz, who does most of her walking at lunchtime because it's just virtually impossible for her with her hours. So I think it's the same way with this. Stay within that 20 minutes. That was a very good point too. Thank you for the reminder of that for everybody. But also work it on a schedule that can work for you, staying within that 20-minute boundary or 20-minute period of time. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. And yeah, no better example than Kathy on, if you look at the details of the 6-week cycle program and like when to get your steps in, and hey, get the 5,000 steps in before breakfast. And here's Kathy that doesn't do that, but yet does better than the rest of us combined in terms of her consistency of 10,000 steps. It's just a perfect example of do what works well for you, and it might be different than what is right, you know, in the PDF, you know, of the health point program. No, I love that. Yeah, another, you know, thing that I routinely get asked is, you know, well, what's the best form of exercise? And the answer is the one that you'll do every day, right? You know, and you know, and that's one of the reasons why walking is the chosen program within the health point program. Is pretty much you're at your house, you're like Emily and I are at the cottage. I mean, we already got our walk in this morning, you know, before that we started this, you know. If we were traveling, if we were in another city, some of us will be in Atlanta in a couple of months, you know, we can take a walk in the morning. You may not be able to, well, at a hotel, you'll be able to, but you may not be able to access, you know, weights or a Peloton bike or, you know, a trampoline or whatever you like to use as your fun exercise. Hey, that sounds great, but when you travel to Atlanta, where's your nearest trampoline to be able to do? So if you're going to sit around for 3 or 4 days because your trampoline isn't there, well, that's not very good. So walking is the foundational exercise because it's so scalable and you can do it for the rest of your life. You know, that's the other thing too. There's certain things where works great when you're 20s. Yeah, but maybe, you know, not so much in your 80s and 90s and so forth. So yeah,
Hey,
great stuff. Hey, well, walking works. Walking works. And Carol, you would be on a trampoline. You would be.
liar, your pants are on fire.
That's right. Yeah, we got all these outliers on here. We got Kathy that is not walking her 5,000 steps before breakfast and kind of doesn't even go outside. That's the other thing, Kathy. Let's totally throw you under the bus.
Yeah.
You don't walk
Go for
outside
it.
either. And yet you're just, you know, waxing the rest of us with your consistency. You rule breaker, you.
Sorry. I
And
was
then
going to
we've
say
got-
though, Carol, in Eric's defense, when he said 80 or 90-year-olds, he's talking about the typical 80 or 90-year-old, you know, like that 70-something gentleman that Hank encountered at the car dealership that,
Yeah.
bless his heart, can't even drive. So he's not talking about our amazing health point stars, health span
we're
stars,
having
Hank and
fun.
Carol. So
We're having fun.
the general
having fun.
population, but they can walk, you know, and my mom's kind of a good point for that because she is at least getting up and walking around the house more than she
Good.
used to with me harping on her all the time.
A lot of it is awareness, and Kathy, good for you for making her aware, you know, and sometimes people just aren't aware how important it is to get up and move. Risk kick or no risk kick.
I like that. You're evoking one of the audios in our program, the kick in the wrist by Skip Ross.
Yeah.
I love that. Love that. And thank you, Kathy, for pulling me out from underneath the bus on my. You know, here's the thing, Carol, is that none of us think of you and you and Hank as in your 80s or 90s or any of the people in this program, which is a testament. I mean, we are literally blinded to that because you're outpacing the rest of us, right? You know, you're out
that's
there
not,
doing.
I'm not outpacing, but I'll tell you what, it is an attitude of the mind. And if you harbor around the fact that you're 80 blah 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 or 90 blah blah blah, that's what you're going to feel. If you hang around with younger people and you do things with younger people, you act that way, and that's the way you feel, and that's is a mindset, just like health points, a mindset. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for just setting such a great example. It's really, really amazing and wonderful. So thanks for that. And well, this is kind of a.
I'm
Yes.
sanguine, so let me bring it back to the beginning.
Yes, David.
Of what you had shared. And so one thing is that I just always remind people that when you're talking about eating versus the taking the muscle multiplier, is that if you can move in the morning, that you're burning body fat. I'm burning fat off my butt or off my gut versus the food in my stomach. And so Chris and I usually go for about a 20-minute walk, 20 to 30-minute walk in the morning. We get up in the morning, have our muscle multiplier, the probiotic, go for a 20 to 30-minute walk, and then we have breakfast. And so it's to stack the odds in my favor of burning some body fat versus burning the food that I'm eating. The second thing is I had a brand new person on the program that started on Monday. And it was interesting because it tied right into what you said, because by Tuesday he was talking to me about his headaches. And I probably was not as prepared because I had not heard you yet. And so one of the things I told him to do is to take an extra omega to try to help with his headaches. But he said they were pretty manageable. And he was very good with following the program. And so he said he had no physical cravings, but he said, I still have the psychological cravings. I'm used to wanting the salty chips and the salty things, he says, especially at work. But anyways, what he had shared with me those first 3 days on his protein days tied in perfectly with what you just shared. So thank you.
You bet.
Oh,
David.
by the way, I'm in my tree fort in Glen Laurel.
You are.
Ah.
I recognize that. There's something. So for those that are maybe have not heard this, David and Chris are at Glen Laurel, which is in Hocking Hills, Ohio, and David has shared this before on usually on your anniversary. Is that right, David? Is
Correct. We sometimes go more often than that, but we always go on our anniversary. So we're here celebrating another anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary. Woohoo! And so anyhow, this is a place that Emily and I have gone. In fact, we went last year for our anniversary, which is in August. And oh my gosh, if anybody's ever looking for an amazing place to go to, and especially not only the Hocking Hills area for talk about getting your steps in, all your hikes you can do there. It is gorgeous and rigorous, or can be. And then, there's a lot of places you can stay and Airbnbs and stuff, but David had cued us into this small boutique property, this Scottish theme place called Hocking Hills. And David is in one of just a handful of, what are they called? Not cottages, what are they called?
Crofts.
Crofts, correct. Yeah, crofts, which is a Scottish term for like a small cottage, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And as you can see with David's background, it's almost like he's in a tree fort. And David had explained this to Emily and I, and we booked a croft in the location that he suggested, and it's magical. And so we need to get a commission from Glen Laurel on the increase of business that you are sending to them, David. I mean, it's an incredible place. I will say though, the meals, we'll say this, don't send your new people or anybody that's in a 6-week cycle to Glen Laurel, because they have this great main house with a personal chef and staff that, let's just say, it's difficult to say health point-ish in that. Not impossible, but difficult. Great for lifetime maintenance mode.
Our granddaughter is going there for her engagement party. They're not party girls. They are real clean eaters, physically fit, good girls. And so she's taking her wedding party, and they're going there at not only your suggestions, David and Eric, but also our daughter-in-law, her mom, her suggestion. And so I was real excited. And then David sent some pictures and I sent them over to her, which she thanked you very much for those. But they're real interested in hiking, nature, all that kind of stuff. And so it's not just for, people that have been married for a long time, although I have to feel that'll probably be their anniversary place over the years. Who knows? But a great introduction as a engagement weekend with the girls. So thank you,
Yeah.
Eric and David.
Yeah. Thank you, David. I mean, you had
For a
mentioned it, I
reference
think.
point, Chris and I started coming here probably in our mid-40s
Okay.
when it very
Wow.
first opened. So,
Mm,
Wow.
I encourage it for any age. It's just a great place for a renewal. Refresh
Yeah.
my mind, refresh my body, refresh your relationships.
Mm.
mhm.
I'm big on dating, so I'm always talking to young couples about the importance of dating or getting away, spending time together. Anyways, hits all those
Mm,
themes, and part of it was I was not good at those things prior to my 40s. So it's like I've learned from my mistakes.
mm. Well, thanks you for talk about paying it forward. We talk about paying it forward in the Health Point program, and you have paid it forward. Certainly as blessed Emily and I, we have just magical memories from there and we'll be back. And then, um, family from, Hank and Carol. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. And speaking of dating, that brings me around to Laurel. And I don't know if this will play into it or not, but I actually don't know exactly what you're going to talk about, Laurel. But when you talk about the perfect hug, I think about a little bit about dating and and so forth. So Laurel, if you're there, if you'd like to,
Yeah, I'm here. Let's get my
hey,
video on here. All right.
excellent.
Can you, I don't know why it's not holding. I don't know. I'm turning on my video. Can you see me yet?
Yeah, we can see you.
Yeah.
Oh, all
Yep.
right. Well, it wasn't looking
Mhm.
like it was. Yeah, I read this article and it was a little long, so I tried to reduce it down to the bare essentials, but I just found it fascinating and I thought I'd just share it. So it's about immunity, stress, and the perfect hug. And then the byline was, can hug defeat a virus? In a carefully controlled laboratory at Carnegie Mellon University, researchers exposed more than 400 healthy volunteers to the common cold virus. The researchers exposed participants to that virus, but for 14 days prior to that, they interviewed them and got all kinds of information about their daily conflicts, their social interactions, and yes, whether anyone had hugged them that day. The results, participants who were hugged on most days had about a 60% lower odds of becoming infected with the virus than those who were rarely hugged. Additionally, those who did get sick recovered more quickly and had a stronger immune response than those who had fewer hugs. So now to the nerdy part for Eric and the scientists in the crowd. The science behind the embrace. When we hug somebody, a cascade of events unfolds in our bodies and brains, affecting us on multiple levels: neurobiological, neurochemical, and social. So first, neurobiological. Hugging stimulates a network of sensory nerves under the skin, particularly a specialized group called C-tactile afferents, sometimes referred to as the cuddle nerves. These
Hmm.
nerves are especially responsive to gentle, affectionate touch and send signals directly to the brain's center for emotional processing. When triggered, cuddle nerves also release endorphins, the body's natural painkillers that help boost mood. Cuddle nerves are optimized to create a sensation of comfort. On the neurochemical level, hugging triggers the release of several feel-good chemicals. Chief among these is oxytocin, often dubbed the love hormone, which enhances feelings of bonding, trust, and safety. In addition, hugging releases dopamine, which is associated with pleasure, and serotonin, which stabilizes mood and promotes happiness. And from a social psychological standpoint, hugs convey support without the need for words. So they serve as nonverbal affirmations of shared feelings, which then reinforce our social bonds. The researchers tested several types of hugs and durations. They found the precise requirements. They were looking for the perfect hug. 1 second hugs felt unsatisfying and provide minimal benefit. At the same time, 5 to 10 seconds proved optimal before longer contact became uncomfortable. The exception to that was for married or more intimate relationships, where the 20-second embrace produced the strongest measurable effects. And then they quoted some other studies. They talked about a 2023 study where there was 100 first-year college students who received daily hugs from friends, roommates, and family members. And they measured them and they found that they had reduced morning stress levels on the morning following the days when they received a lot of hugs or physical touch rather than a few. Other research earlier in 2003, they've been studying this a long time, found that in a couple situation, one who was about to give a speech, if they had 10 minutes of hand holding followed by a 20-second hug with their partner before giving their speech, they had lower blood pressure and their heart rate was down by half compared to those who sat quietly without any contact. And these results suggest that affectionate touch provides psychological protection. A few other benefits they talked about, that a regular affectionate contact produces benefits far beyond stress reduction and a healthy heart. People who receive consistent physical comfort, whether it's from humans, pets, or even weighted blankets, sleep more soundly and wake more refreshed than those who lack that kind of contact. And also, hugging on a regular basis can also reduce inflammation. A 2020 study found that hugging was significantly associated with lower pro-inflammatory molecules. And finally, they talked a little bit about physical touch and trauma. The mental health specialist that they interviewed witnessed profound transformations with her clients who had anxiety, depression, PTSD, and addiction when they received a gentle, comforting touch. She said it reminds their brain what it feels like to be safe and loved. The research done in neuroplasticity, which is the brain has the ability to modify its nerve connections and adapt its behavior based on experiences and environment. And the research shows that repeated positive experiences will reshape your neural or nerve pathways. And then healing happens because consistent physical comfort creates new nerve pathways and neural patterns that support emotional recovery. The brain's ability to change and adapt through experience means that regular affectionate touch can gradually rewire damaged stress responses and emotional regulation systems. So in conclusion, regardless of the context, hugging is a powerful tool for enhancing well-being across the ages. It's a prescription that requires no specialized training, no expensive equipment, or no pharmaceutical intervention. So the next time you feel like taking medicine, remember there is a good one that can be just around your shoulders. So that's the article.
Wow. Geez, that was amazing. I'm sure we're going to have some comments on that. First thing, I wish Zoom allowed for a big group hug that we
Yeah,
could
that's
do
what I was
here,
thinking. We
right?
need a big group hug with that one.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'll open it up for, of course, anybody. And by the way, we don't have to queue anybody up. Anybody who wants to say anything, just unmute and speak. The rest of us will stop and allow you. You know what? Almost immediately came to my mind as you were starting to unpack this, Laurel, and I don't know. I wish I could remember the name of the audio. Some of you, when I start talking about this, will probably remember it. There was, for those of us that are business owners in here and listen to a lot of audios and are part of the Network 21 system, and particularly have gone to the weekend conferences and so forth, know of Jim Dornan. Okay, he and Nancy, founder of Network 21, and I remember listening to a part of an audio that Jim Dornan was talking about an experiment that they did with rats. And it was, I can still visualize it where he was making a point similar to what you're making, Laurel, in terms of the benefits of the community, the benefits of love, the benefits of, some of these, like, you might call it like soft sciences until you get into the science of it, like you did, Laurel, and you see these absolute pathways of molecular and so forth. But I don't know if you guys remember this, but I'm trying to reflect on the audio. He talked about how I remember him saying they were German scientists because he was making kind of a joke about it. Like, can you imagine these rigid German scientists in their white coats, and they were conducting these experiments on the lifespan of rats. And there was something else that they were trying, but almost by accident, which is where a lot of experiments find, other outcomes is by quote unquote accident. There was this particular group of rats that were living like a lot longer than the other rats. And they were like, well, why is this? What are these scientists doing with these rats that they're not doing with those rats? And for those that remember the audio, what were those scientists doing is they happened to be picking them up and just kind of petting them, just kind of
Oh,
call it a
I
rat.
remember that.
Yeah, maybe a little like a rat hug. It's just a little affection, a little bit. They would pick them up for X amount of time per day and give them some affection, give them that comfort, that hug, that petting. Maybe not a hug. I don't know how you hug a rat, but they would like pet them or whatever. And these rats were living healthier, living longer. And so that's the first thing that popped into my head but I can't remember the name of that audio. I don't know if anybody else rings a bell with this one. If so, we'll have to throw it up into our WhatsApp channel. But what a great talk on the value of hugs, Laurel. Love
Well,
that.
and the other benefit I will just say, because I read it to Al, because I wanted to see how long it took me to read my synopsis. And so now every time we hug, he hangs on a little longer. He goes, oh, wait, we're not to 20 seconds yet. So that's an added benefit.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And yeah, I kind of appreciate that define because you said 5 to 10 seconds for, gets all the benefits, but kind of like not beyond that, unless this is like your spouse or someone that's
Right,
comfortable with
right,
it. So
right. And there are some
kinda-
people that people who are huggers could overdo it, but it is interesting if you do that, even if you try it 10 seconds, you're kind of, okay, that's good. Even that pushes it, I think, for a lot of people. I noticed I was hugging my son yesterday, and that was probably about 8 to 10 seconds, but sometimes they hang on a little longer, so it's just interesting. I found that funny, but when they said the perfect hug, 20 seconds, it's longer than you think.
I don't know if you guys are seeing this, but we've got David and Kathy excelling at the perfect hug. You guys are too cute. Wait, how many seconds has that been over there? That's been
I counted earlier. It was 20 when Laurel was talking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you get into 30 or 40 and you got to get a
Yeah.
room or
Well,
something.
yeah, then we'll go off camera.
When we start to we get really edgy on these walk and talks, we'll talk about the benefits of those.
I think we're going
longer
off
hugs.
now, guys. Sorry.
We might
Eric,
get canceled. Yeah, yes, Hank. Good morning.
can I
Hank.
butt in just real quickly because this brings a lot of memories. Carol and I have had the opportunity to speak in many different countries to groups, and we're ready to go on stage. Carol and I are standing off stage. We give each other a hug. That makes so much sense. It's a feeling of assurance. And before we go on stage, and it just felt good. It relaxed you. And because speaking in front of groups, even as often as you do it, you still get uptight and nervous. And before you go on, but give each other a hug before we went on stage. It really just made a lot of difference. Just wanted to share that with you.
I love that. Yeah, I did make note of that part where Laurel, you were talking about before a speech to be able to give a hug and it reduce. I didn't quite jot it down, but it reduces your beats
Yeah,
per minute.
it would reduce it reduced both the blood pressure and the heart rate by half compared to those who
Right.
just sat quietly. Yeah.
Yep. Wow. And Hank to be able to come right in with, I know you guys have spoken around the world and, like you said, as much as you do that, it's surely still kind of, an anxious moment, a nervous moment to go out on stage and to be able to have you, speak to this firsthand about how you and Carol, will give a hug and it just kind of calms you before going out and giving that talk. No, I love that. Absolutely love that. Really, really great stuff. So, well, we go from freezers and glycogen stores to hugs, the perfect hug, and now to chia seeds. We cover the full gamut here. So, Carol, if you're able to, we'd love to hear more about chia seeds. And oops, I think we just lost Carol. She might be coming. I saw her tapping to unmute herself, and she might have, as so many of us do, she tapped her another button and blipped out. I don't see her anywhere in here. Yeah, I think Carol
Am I
accidentally.
on?
Yes, there you are. There you
Okay.
are. So
I'm in the sunshine and I can't see anything. I was trying to look for a shady tree, but he caught me in a stream of no trees. Anyway, excuse me. So I love that. I love it all. I love these walk and talks and how they just take a life of their own. And who knows, we were going to be talking about hugs today. And I didn't know that my hug helped Hank when he spoke around the world. That's pretty nice. So, what I wanted to touch on, I'm going to find a shady spot here because I've got an article like you, Eric, and Laurel, and it's on chia seeds. And the reason that I picked this article was, first of all, because Eric, you have this wonderful chia seed powder and also a mocha drink in the morning with chia seeds. And I started eating chia seeds, oh my gosh, 15 years ago, maybe. And they are really healthy, but I never realized how healthy. And an article came up. You'll have to excuse me. I'm going to set this down here because I got too much in my hands. Okay. This article is, are chia seeds good for your bones? This happens to be a bone article, but it's not just about bones as I started reading it. So it says, do you know that chia seeds are widely considered a superfood? The chia plant is native to Mexico and Guatemala, where it's been a staple food for around 5,500 years. Chia seeds were used by Aztecs and Mayan cultures for medicines, crafts, and as a source of nutrition. Chia seeds are excellent sources of, here you go, omega-3, high quality protein, dietary fiber, vitamins, minerals, and a variety of antioxidants. And they're alkalizing. And you want to eat alkalizing foods such as fruits and vegetables because they will keep your alkaline balance, which many times people are acidic and they need to be working on alkalizing their system. So chia seeds are alkalizing. So when you're using these in your shakes, in your meatloaf, wherever you're using them, in your protein powders and what have you, you are alkalizing your body. So it says the nutritional breakdown of chia seeds. Here's 1 ounce. That's 2 tablespoons. Now this probably is more than what I take personally. I think Eric probably takes more. But in 2 tablespoons, there is 11 grams of fiber, 4 grams of protein, 5 grams of omega-3 fatty acids, 18% of the recommended daily intake of calcium, manganese, 30%. Manganese is a very unique and important and not talked about mineral. Magnesium, excuse me. Magnesium we're talking about all the time. 30% of your RDI of magnesium and 27% of phosphorus. Chia seeds are also a great source of zinc, potassium, which is again an alkalizing property, vitamin B3, B1, and B2. And then it says the same serving of chia seeds contains only 137 calories, which we're really not counting calories anyway, and a single gram of digestible carbohydrates, 1 gram. This makes chia seeds very nutrient dense. Chia seeds are excellent sources, again, of fiber, protein, omega-3 fatty acids, calcium, manganese, magnesium, and phosphorus. Together, they contain a high density of nutrients per calorie. So it says health benefits of chia seeds. Okay, so just to touch on a few, and this is really what I wanted to get to. Chia seeds lower your risk of heart disease. Fiber, protein, and omega-3 in chia seeds help reduce your risk of heart disease. Studies have found that chia seeds lower risk factors, including inflammation, and isn't that the number one thing that people are fighting with, insulin resistance and belly fat. And isn't that what Health Point's all about? Reduce blood sugar levels. Studies with animals have found that chia seeds can improve insulin sensitivity. They also help regulate blood sugar levels, so you can avoid an after meal blood sugar spike. The next, it reduces chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation causes harm throughout the body and is primarily detected through inflammation markers found in the blood. A 3-month study with diabetic participants found that those who ate chia seeds each day had reduced inflammatory markers. Antioxidant protection from cancer and aging. Free radicals damage cells and contribute to both aging and the development of cancer. Antioxidants fight the production of free radicals, helping to slow down the aging process and prevent cancer. Studies have confirmed the positive health effects of antioxidant-rich foods like chia seeds. So a synopsis: chia seeds provide health benefits, including risk of heart disease, blood sugar levels, chronic inflammation, and effective antioxidant protection from aging and cancer. And then finally, it's got a bone building component, which is very, very important. Muscles and bones are the two things that are extremely important to pay attention to. I would definitely say after your 40s, definitely by your 50s, and massively from then on. So it says that's my point. Chia seeds contain high levels of several nutrients that are essential for building strong bones. The following 4 foundation supplements are excellent examples. They illustrate just how useful chia seeds are for a bone healthy diet. So the first one is calcium. Calcium is directly involved in the process of bone formation and maintenance. It's the most prevalent mineral in your skeleton, so it's crucial for bone building. Calcium also facilitates the transport of oxygen throughout your body, making it necessary, for cardiovascular health. So calcium, and I'm saying this in context of chia seeds. Chia seeds are a minute amount. We have Nutrilite that is a massive amount of calcium, whether it be your CalMag D, whether it be your bone health. Calcium is extremely important. Then magnesium. Well, we have a brand new magnesium tablet that we are singing all over the place for. I'll tell you about magnesium. I have been plagued with leg cramps, especially when we're on conferences, for ages. They come and go. And then, magnesium, when I started taking 2 magnesium at night, they totally disappeared, our magnesium. Now, I was taking other magnesium, to see if it would help. It never helped at all. So it goes back to what is actually in the product. Is it NSF, National Sanitation Foundation approved? And is it actually in there? Well, the stuff I was taking apparently wasn't, because when we came up with our magnesium, I immediately got it. It totally took care of it. Magnesium plays a role in more than 300 processes throughout the body, including the regulation of parathyroid gland. That gland controls the mineralization of new bone. Since magnesium is a necessary component of the bone matrix, it both regulates the process of mineralization and is one of the minerals present in that bone building process. And then manganese. Manganese, probably many of you haven't even heard of. Manganese is a foundation supplement that often gets overlooked. But this mineral is the primary antioxidant enzyme protecting your cells from oxidative damage. It also plays a role in collagen production for your skin, for your bones, meaning you need manganese to create building blocks of both your skin and your bones. So that's manganese. And then the last one is B vitamins. The B vitamins work together to offer benefits ranging from nervous system function to protein metabolism to the production of red blood cells and immune cells. So I brought that up, first of all, because many of us use that in our snacks. And Eric, you were talking earlier about protein snacks in between. And every time I think of protein snacks, I think of your protein pudding with all the chia seeds and your morning mocha. And I believe both of those, which I think are pretty much the same recipe, is just that the one has coffee in it and is thinner and you drink it, or the other one is like a pudding you eat in between meals as a snack. I think both of those are on our Health Point Eats menu app on WhatsApp. So I wanted to bring that out because as you're eating your chia seeds, know that you are doing something really good in addition to having fiber. And make sure you let them bloom, okay? Put them in liquid and let them bloom. They'll pop up like little grapes. They'll be like a raisin. Once you put it in water, it turns to a grape. It all puffs up. That's what chia seeds do. And that's what softens their shells so that when you eat them, they're digestible and they go into your system quickly. Or if you're going to do them in a blender and you're going to blend your shakes like Hank does in the morning, then you can just put them right in and they'll break down just by the process of blending. But hey, we have it all in our Nutrilite. Add chia seeds as a little cherry on the top and go out and get a big bag of organic. I use one called Anthony's Organic Black Chia Seeds. They've got all the organic and non-GMO and all of those things. I get them off Amazon. And unfortunately, there's no volume in them, but there is volume in all and benefit, much more benefit in all of the Nutrilite supplements that we have in our line that are a mega dose of chia seeds. So Eric, I'm going to turn that back over to you.
Boy, I love that. That is, I did not know so many of those things that you're talking about on chia seeds. And, I use chia seeds, virtually every day. And so, wow, I can see why you wanted to kind of unpack that more and understand the tremendous variety of health benefits that come from chia seeds. So, yeah, as we're wrapping up our program today, and again on this, if anybody has any comments or questions for Carol on the chia seeds, I'll just come kind of full circle back to starting docket item that I talked about, which was the glycogen and the 3 protein days. The other thing that I've been talking a lot about this past week is in light of the 3 protein days. Think about it. In those 3 protein days, what does that do to your digestion? And let's bring up the topic of constipation. If you're not having that be, if that's a third rail topic that you don't talk with people about, that may be a challenge that they experience, and they may not be tracking like as ideally as they could. So we have the discussion about, okay, you're doing 3 protein days. How are you getting your fiber? Good question. It's not coming from fruits and vegetables, right? So how do we get it? We drink it. We drink it. How do we drink it? Well, we've got of course, the fiber product, which is one, but to get the necessary grams of fiber for regular bowel movements, most women, again, this is bio-individual, and you definitely listen to your body on this. Are you 6'7", or are you 5'1"? Are you male or you're female? But most women are going to be needing 20 to 25 grams or thereabouts on their fiber intake. And men are going to be over 30, 35 or more grams, that is. So when, Carol, you're talking about 2 tablespoons of chia seeds containing 11 grams of fiber, boy, you're already roughly halfway there on your on your fiber intake. And so as you come into these, particularly these 3 protein days where you're not having the broccoli and the carrots and maybe some apple or something like that, you're getting this fiber that will be very beneficial in terms of bowel movements and so forth. Absent of that, it could be, kind of a rough path. And so it is a wonderful source for that. And yeah, making up the mocha shake, as we call it. So we do have this on the WhatsApp, complete with pictures, but it's very, very basic in my case. And I put the pictures up there. I have a tall glass and say about half full. In my case, I like kind of a mocha flavor. I'll have cooled down coffee. Okay, so that's the liquid, and then I'll put the chia seeds in there. And like Carol said, they're gonna kind of want to float a little bit, and you can take a little stir stick or something, kind of swirl them around, and then they'll get, as Carol says, blooming. As I say, they turn into a gelatinous crunch. I like Carol's term better than gelatinous crunch. Okay. I do put about, a bit of salt, good quality salt in the palm of my hand, and just kind of dump that in there. Guys, don't be afraid of salt. If you're going on Health Point, all the admonitions about salt and too much sodium, yes, if you're shopping the inner aisles of the grocery store and everything you eat is coming in bags, boxes, and barcodes, trust me, you are going off the charts on your sodium intake. Take a look at the loaf of bread. Take a look at a box of crackers. Take a look at a can of green beans. There is more sodium in that processed food than you can shake a stick at. As soon as you start eating healthy and hitting the outer aisles of the grocery store and getting whole fruits and vegetables and clean proteins, salt is not your problem. In fact, you, in many cases, will need to increase some salt by salting your food. And so in this mocha shake, I add a little bit of salt in there. And then I'm going to add the protein powder at that point. And one of the things I show in this picture is I put the protein powder in there because now the protein powder is like halfway down in this tall glass. Why is that important? Anybody that's tried to stir protein powder where the liquid is too close to the lid, to the top, will experience that puffy powder going all over the counter. It's funny the things we learn in this world. So these little tips and tricks, and when you stir it, so it'll be not enough liquid in there. It'll kind of turn into like a cookie dough. It's kind of sticky. And that's when you add more liquid. In my case, I like unsweetened almond milk. I'll add that and kind of top it back off to the top now and stir it up. And that's a nice, delicious, gelatinous crunch mocha protein shake. And then real quickly, as Carol said, on the protein snack, it's the same recipe. I just do it in a bowl, and I don't use the coffee. I just use the unsweetened mocha, unsweetened almond milk. And maybe somebody else can do this. I have not done this yet. So if somebody that wants to get into the detail of this, of actually measuring how much, but I just kind of do it by I stir it and see how thick it is. I just put a little bit of almond milk in the bowl. I put 2 scoops of, again, the chocolate protein powder. This is our Nutrilite certified organics protein powder, delicious. 21 grams of protein in 2 scoops. Again, I put some salt in there. I put the chia seeds in there, and I just, stir it around. And again, if it's a deep bowl, you're not going to worry about the protein powder spilling over. And, ideally, I have not enough liquid in at first. And as those chia seeds start to swell up, and as some of that almond milk is kind of soaking up the protein powder, it's going to turn into kind of a thick goo. I add a little bit more unsweetened almond milk, stir it some more. And, it's okay if it's a little bit still liquidy. Then I put it in the refrigerator. And after it sits in there for 20, 30 minutes, the rest of the absorption into the chia seeds and the protein powder is going to happen. It's going to, chill down to, and you just leave. Anytime you want a protein snack that has some chia in there, you just, scoop a bit of that out, and it's delicious. It's packed full of these wonderful protein, wonderful qualities of the chia. You're getting some additional fiber. Life is good. So yeah.
Eric, have you ever tried to add a dash of cinnamon in there?
Oh, I haven't, but I've had clients that have, and they love it.
Really? Yeah, it just came to my mind while I was listening to you.
Yeah. Yep.
Cinnamon is
Absolutely.
very beneficial for you. It's very anti-inflammatory.
In fact, I have one client that just for her fiber intake will do chia seeds in liquid with cinnamon, and that's it. No protein powder. You know,
Oh,
when she just
interesting.
wants the fiber, she will, you know, instead of just doing blank chia seeds in the liquid, she puts a little the cinnamon in with the chia and the water, and she just slugs that down, and it's you know, X amount of grams of fiber. Yes.
Yeah. You know,
So
Health Point is such an easy program, and I'm into easy and grab foods because I'm always on the run somewhere, believe it or not. And I happen to personally do the excess liquid protein shakes for my morning shake, and I don't blend it. Hank does. I do not. I put it in one of those real heavy duty metal, trying to think of the name of them, glass, and I store it in the refrigerator because it's ice cold then. I throw the chia seeds in there and I'll do berries of choice, either fresh raspberries, fresh blueberries, blackberries, whatever I can get my hands on. And I just throw them in there, the amount that you're supposed to have for a breakfast, and then the chia seeds, and then I just stir that and let it set for about 15 minutes. I stick it in the refrigerator, and then I just eat out of it. I drink my vitamins down with the liquid, and I eat out of it. And so I feel like I'm getting a shake, but I'm also getting something crunchy and chewy, because I think there's something psychological about eating something at breakfast also. And it's a very simple, quick and easy. You don't have to mess around with a blender or anything. And it's kind of an out the door type thing. You can even make it and stick it in your car as you're going to work and drink it with your vitamins down while you're traveling. So, and then just eat your fruit out of it. The fruit's got the blown up chia seeds. It's got a little bit of the shake. It's got the liquid, and oh, it is very delicious. Very, very delicious.
love it. Love
So,
it. Well, there you go, guys. We
So
have
Carol,
go
can
ahead.
you
yes.
email that chia seed article? Because with me walking, I didn't get to write anything down, and that was like
Yes,
just packed up with so many things that I think it'd be beneficial for everybody if we had a hard copy, please.
I will definitely do that. I will definitely do that. Yep.
Thank you.
Uh,
You're welcome.
Excellent. All right, guys. Well, we've done it again. What a wonderful, what a everything from talking about refrigerators and freezers and glycogen. There we've got David and Kathy doing their hug over there again. Well, I love it. You guys look so cute. I love it. So we've had the wonderful benefits of hugs. We've learned so much about chia seeds and everything in between. So what a way to kick off August on our Voices of Health Point. Can't wait to see everybody next week, same time, same place. Till then, bye-bye.
Bye.